Yeah, sure. Like Mantis Analytics, it's a situation awareness and threat intelligence platform, like powered with AI, right? So basically, we help companies and government organizations like manage risks, both like physical and informational, using AI.
As far as I understood, so you as a team actually gathered as volunteers in March 2022 to probably be useful and utilize the expertise that you have. Can you share a little bit of background of that story?
We started as a startup like absolutely organically, right? Without any plan, because full invasion of Russia has been started, and you remember this like first months of shock and these questions that we asked everybody, like and each other, like and themselves, like how can I help in the following situation, right? And we decided to help with our experience, right? Because our whole team has experience to building AI, data platform solution, data analysis, and so on. For example, I did that all my life, right? And like in parallel with the physical confrontation, like huge informational war has been started. You remember, like first weeks, like all the media like flooded with disinformation, with deepfake videos and so on. And we decided to help our government to be more resilient in the following situation using AI technologies. So in this case, we just started as a volunteer organization. We started to work with National Security Council of Ukraine, other like government institution, just with a main mission to help them be more resilient.
Yeah, probably one of the main points at early stage of startup is who are the co-founders, how long they work together, right? Can you also tell us a little bit of how you actually met your co-founders, whether you have some past work experience together, and how three of you actually collided to create Mantis Analytics?
Let's first of all, we have three co-founders. I'm Maxim as a CEO of the company. Astap, he is CTO of the company, and Anton, he is CMO and expertise lead in the company. So with Ostap, I think we met about 12 years ago or something like that, because we worked on the big project in the Deutsche Bank, just on fraud detection system, also using AI, and we worked like several years, so we know each other like very well. So in this case, just first candidate in mind for the CTO position, it was Stab, so I immediately invite him, and it's very cool that he immediately agreed on this like proposition. With Anton, we met at the beginning of previous year, because he was doing like some kind of similar media monitoring project about like mentions of Ukraine in Western media. So we connected with this project, and after that, we just understood that we're on the same page, and let's start to work together. And that's how the story like began between founders.
Yeah, right. So basically, for you guys, you wanted to volunteer to help the country in the situation, to counter the disinformation in a way, right? And eventually you understood that we can make business of it, or start a startup based on the expertise, idea, and first early traction. Do you have a specific point in time when you said, okay, now we are a startup doing business, not a group of volunteers?
Yeah, it's a very interesting point, and I think it's a very actual point for the startup industry itself, especially startups which were like in the wartime, right? Because first years were like a lot of volunteer initiatives, but in some time you need to start some kind of transformation because you cannot be like volunteer forever. Like I think everybody is like understands that. Basically, such kind of point of transformation happened exactly in 1 year after like we started as a volunteer organization, and it were like several drivers for that. First of all, I think one of the drivers that I finished my previous work in previous startup, and after that I just started to think what to do next, and I just think, oh wow, like we have a very good, powerful team. We have a great mission, which is very important because, frankly speaking, in our career, most of the places do not have proper vision, right? Which can be easily communicate, right? But in case of Mantis Analytics, for me it was very simple just to communicate this mission. First of all, for myself, right? And also just I understood that the problem is relevant. I was sure about government, about our organization around government, that there is demand, but also I have some kind of hypothesis about corporate sectors that we can successfully scale, and such kind of factors. It was enough for me just to say, okay, so our volunteer story, it's finished. From this point, we just started commercialization, and we started transformation to the company.
Yeah, absolutely. And I believe for investors, right, it is also very important to understand that it's not a pet project or a side project, or a volunteering project, but a potentially very sustainable and high growth business. And you actually closed an early pre-seed round with South Ventures last year, and was announced just a couple of months ago. Maybe you can also shed a bit of light on the process behind that, how you approached, how you understood that you need investment, how you approach investors, and how quick in terms of timing was that negotiations with South Ventures.
We are now on the close line of our, we name it as a safe round, right? Or we can name it as a pre-seed round. So totally we're raising about $500,000, and already we raised $185, and we have a commitment. We have a commitment for $300. So hopefully we will close our round soon. And now a little bit of insights of the fundraising process, because my background is product management. I spent almost all my life on product management position, on head of product, on project management. But the main difference that when you became a CEO, you start to have such kind of fundraising experience, because it's absolutely impossible to have it on a position like a product manager or head of product. And so it was absolutely new experience for me. And as a startup founder, I started from some kind of romantic phase, right? That, oh wow, we have absolutely cool startup. I will raise everything in 10 minutes, and so on and so on. But what I recognize is that fundraising is a really hard and routine work, right? So I cannot count how many calls with investors I did. I think it's more than several hundreds for the last time period. So what I want to mention here and maybe suggest for early startup founders. So first of all, do everything not only on logical level, because we have some kind of frameworks, how to make a pitch, how to formalize your interaction, and so on. Yeah, it's everything important, but also try to find some kind of resonation with your first investors and so on, because some things on the early stage are not fully logical, right? You just feel something after the call that is your investor, that is your person, because investment on early stage is mostly about believing in team, believing in mission, believing in something like that, because you cannot verify all the numbers and so on and so on. So in this case, such kind of early work on investment, for me, it's 50-50, 50 logical and 50 about emotional intelligence, like just understanding what do you feel for the every call and so on. And I'm happy that we found this resonation, and we are on the closing line on this our first round in very tough condition. We can say it's absolutely directly that now like raising money for the early stage startup, especially like in Ukraine, it's very tough job basically.
Yeah, I guess in general, doing business and doing a startup in such conditions is hard. It requires a lot of resilience and, not giving up. And especially fundraising, when you play a game, when you hear probably hundreds people say, no, I don't believe in the idea, or no, it's not for us, or no, there is a red flag of some kind. But still keeping that, in a way, passion, in a way, energy, in a way, resilience, to get to the level, then you start receiving, yes, we're in, we believe into that. We believe that that's an opportunity for us. So that's something that I we need to empathize in a way a lot to founders and to CEOs who spend hours and hours every day receiving no, and then finally having some interest from investors and taking the round. Can you probably tell a bit more on kind of your typical day in terms of fundraising, right? How much time it usually takes or took in general for the last, I assume, half a year or maybe a couple of months at least?
First of all, you need to structure like a process, and I'm trying to structure that as much as possible because, as I say, mostly it's a routine process, right? And I don't think it's it's possible to fully automate that, but just to formalize as much as possible, it's very important. So I'm using SRM, so like from the first day, right? And I suggest that to the all early stage founders to use CRM because anyway, sometime you need to migrate, and as early you start, as better. The next, I think a lot of time I spend like initially on this such kind of follow-up process, because what I recognize is that people now is over element of communication, and like sometimes you need to do like several follow-ups just to get initial like intro call and so on, and it's very important to be like very personalized in such kind of follow-up. So in this case, I'm not sending like some kind of similar messages. Like always, I'm trying to find some kind of approach to person, find some like personal trigger to connect with this person. So in this case, it's first of all some kind of outreach. The second, it's calls. And on the latest stages, it's due diligence process, it's a creation of data rooms and so on. So I think last half of year, I spent like in average like 2-3 hours per day for fundraising process.
So we all know that quantum computing is a new type of computational technology which potentially can unlock a lot of interesting applications which will disrupt and transform a lot of industries. Everything is excellent, but we are not there yet. And current state of these quantum machines, they are already there. You can use them, you can access them via cloud, but those machines are very prone to various environmental effects and influence. And that spoils your computations when you run something on them. And these are various types of noise. And also on this, at the same time, these machines actually are still very tiny and fragile. And moreover, this noise makes them even less effective on the larger scale. So you effectively can use only like few quantum bits when you run your applications. And that's that's a big problem in the field, because if you want to run actually one of those like prospective, interesting applications, then you don't really have a infrastructure and hardware to run those applications on. And we decided, on one hand, people actually are improving those quantum computers every day. So we have new and new models which unlock more computational capabilities, more qubits, more operations that we can run on those machines. However, this process moves slowly. And apparently, there are a lot of interesting ideas how you can improve those machines by using software. And that's what we do. We improve performance of quantum computers using our proprietary software, particularly our proprietary technology which we embed in the so-called quantum middleware stack. This is a stack between applications and hardware, which helps to optimize the application such that it runs optimally on the specific quantum hardware. And that's where we sit. And we decided to tackle this big problem because initially we were focused more on application side, and we understood that it's very hard to run anything on application before you actually have working computers. So that's why we focused on that very hard and challenging problem, but we have ideas and technology how to improve it dramatically. So namely, our technology in some applications allows to gain 100x improvement in comparison to alternatives.
So to wrap it up, you're helping the quantum computers to be more efficient with the help of the software you're building. Am I correct here?
Exactly.
Awesome. How did the idea for this project originate? Because you're saying that, yeah, we want to solve this problem. So was it from your previous experience, from your previous work, or from the work of your co-founder? And also how and why this idea has evolved afterwards?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So because such things, they do not originate in vacuum. Of course, I have some background, my co-founder has some specific background, and both of these backgrounds complement to what we are doing right now. So in the past, I worked a lot in simulations of quantum systems. I used to work in quantum condensed matter physics, where I literally used state-of-the-art numerical approaches in order to simulate quantum systems on the classical device. And that kind of embeds a specific way of thinking of those scientists who work in this field. And currently, the situation in which we are right now is very similar to where I worked 10 years ago in physics. So we have those tiny devices which are very limited in capabilities, and we want to do something more effective on them. So effectively, what we developed is a new numerical technique which allows us to run more complex computations on smaller machines, which are of much smaller scale than is necessary for those larger computations.
I know that you were working in corporate sector for a long period of time, and before you were working as a scientist. So what moved you on to start your own startup? What is the motivation?
I need to say that I was thinking about startup when I still was a scientist at Weizmann Institute of Science. And there, particularly in that institute, I attended the entrepreneurial program where it was designed particularly for scientists, and they invited various alumni from the institute who started their startups. For example, we had lecture from Mobileye, that's one of the biggest company in the world working on the computer vision for autonomous cars. And
Wow.
And other founders like that. So it was super inspiring. So I had already listed a number of ideas which I can use to start a startup. And there was a number of moments where I really had something interesting in my hands to start it. But I always kind of wanted to gain a little bit more experience. And the role in which I was in the corporate world, it was actually very exciting also from perspective that it was about kind of developing internal startups in the company. So I gained a lot of experience in like how to navigate into the right technology, which potentially can be commercialized, how to pass through the commercialization stages, how actually to generate revenue from nothing. So in the end, we actually had multi-million revenue in our unit, literally starting from nothing. So all that actually brought me quite a lot of confidence when we started finally Haiku. And right now, I understand that a lot of those like risks that probably other startups have, I kind of can go around those risks because I already had those in my previous world. But anyway, if you are younger, if you don't have that corporate experience, certainly worth starting. It's not worth to think about the one idea as the only idea you will come up with. So in the end, you will have tons of ideas, and that will be hard to choose the right one that you want to spend like 10 years of your life on. So it's important to start as soon as possible, experiment, fail fast, experiment again, start another idea, and at some point it will start to grow. So you will see it.
Cool. Just to support your words, I want to share that in the form of the Seeds of Bravery, one of the projects is Science to Business, which helps startups and scientists to learn how to commercialize their technologies, learn how to go forward and to move forward to the stage you are right now. So please apply and please get to know more. And if to look back to the milestones in your work which you had, or the roadmap which you had before, what were the key milestones in your startup development? If to name few?
Yeah, I would say we're still very early stage startup. Right now, we are on the stage where we already have a developed technology. It works. We proved that it allows to gain significant improvement in a number of benchmarks, industry grade benchmarks. And we now are piloting this technology with a number of prospective customers and use cases of our partners. So it was first idea, then a small prototype, then a patent. That patent allowed us some freedom to operate in this space. Then we moved forward with more advanced demo that we created and kind of a closed white paper which we presented during due diligence process in the fundraising. And as we fundraise, we scale the team in order now to commercialize, let's say, that technology, to move it from the early prototypes phase to something that can be run on the scale for different applications. And as we passed that point, we started to interact with customers.
Mm-hmm. And I know that prototyping is really like a hard and both interesting part of hypothesis validation, especially for startups, when you don't want to put a lot of resources into that. And if you can recall or share with us how the prototype looked for you in this case, because you are working with the quantum computing, it's a deep tech technology. And I think that prototyping is totally different of what B2B or B2C applications are looking.
I would say the main difference is that we are not speaking here about like user experience prototype or like non-functional visual prototypes. So it's harder to communicate. In this sense, the prototyping phase meant that we had this technological idea, we implemented that in the code, and we applied that code to a specific benchmark problem. And a result was let's say, a plot or a few plots that we were able to, basically a graph that we were able to showcase to a number of stakeholders, saying that here is an input algorithm, here is how this input algorithm looks after execution through our technology. In this case, it's very similar to what you do in academic research. The only thing, when you write research paper, the only thing that you don't really have time to write the full research paper with all the derivation and all the proofs. So here it was much faster. It was more on the level of like, here is an idea, here how we prove that. And of course, we had to be rigorous enough to show that we don't have any flaws. And with the next stages, we also invested quite a lot into building the whole theoretical background to what we do.
I think this is a really good insight for deep tech startup founders who will be listening to us, that probably you can start with a prototype and test your hypothesis early on and do the technical feasibility study before moving on to very huge models and final product.
Exactly. And I would say a lot of deep tech startups and founders that I met, like who come from academia, they also are thinking in the way that they first need to write 5 papers before they actually move into production. I would say that that's not really necessary. If you are in such dynamic field like quantum computing, you can actually prove some things ad hoc and showcase results which are more practical. And but you need, of course, to have strong arguments why this particular result actually is strong.